Between 1999 and 2015, the island of Borneo lost more than 100,000 orangutans. That is somewhere close to half of every orangutan alive there when the counting began. And here is the part that does not sit right. Most of them did not disappear because their forest was cut down. Their forest is still standing. The Bornean orangutan is the largest animal on Earth that spends its whole life in trees. A big male can weigh close to 200 pounds, roughly what a kitchen refrigerator weighs. And he does not leap through the canopy. He hangs. He tests each branch, shifts his weight, and moves the way a careful climber moves. His arm span runs to about 7 feet, wider than he is tall. They are also the only great ape that lives alone. Chimpanzees live in troops. Gorillas live in family groups. An adult orangutan spends most of its life as a single animal, moving through a very large territory. And the one lasting bond in that life is between a mother and her child. Hold on to that detail. It ends up mattering more than anything else in this video. Borneo itself is about the size of Texas, divided between Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei. Something like 100,000 orangutans are left on it. That sounds like a comfortable number, right up until you look at how they reproduce. Ask why orangutans are endangered, and you will get one answer, and you will get it quickly. Palm oil. It is not a wrong answer. Borneo has lost roughly 30% of its forest cover since the early 1970s, and an enormous amount of that ground now grows oil palm. When forest is cleared for a plantation, the orangutans living there do not move somewhere else. They cannot. They eat fruit that grows in a canopy, and there is no canopy. The steepest rates of decline anywhere on the island are in exactly these places. In one region, the population fell by 3/4. There is a second layer to it as well. Much of Borneo's lowland forest grows on peat, ground built from waterlogged plant matter that runs meters deep. Drain that peat for planting and it dries, and dried peat burns. The fires of 1997 and 98 tore through protected areas including Tanjung Puting, and the burning has come back in bad years ever since. Clearing does not politely stop at the edge of the cleared land. There are around 10,000 orangutans sitting right now inside areas already allocated for oil palm development, but not yet cleared. If that ground goes, most of those animals go with it. So this is not a video about palm oil being harmless. Keep that in mind for the next 4 minutes. In 2018, a team drawn from 38 institutions published the most complete count of Bornean orangutans ever assembled. They walked survey lines across the entire range, recorded more than 36,000 nests, and built a model of where the animals were and how many of them there were. Then they laid that map over 16 years of satellite imagery, showing precisely which forest had been cleared, which had been selectively logged, and which had been left alone. The clearance zones behaved exactly as you would expect. Sharp collapse, sometimes complete. But those zones cover a small fraction of Borneo, and only a small fraction of orangutans ever lived inside them. So, when the researchers totaled up where the losses actually came from, in raw numbers rather than percentages, the largest share came from forest that stayed forest for all 16 years. Selectively logged forest. Primary forest. Ground that still reads as intact from a satellite and still reads as intact from a boat on the river. The trees are there. The orangutans are not. To understand why that gap matters, you have to look at how an orangutan is built to survive, because it is not built the way most animals are. A female has her first baby at around 15 years old. She then carries and raises that single infant for 6 to 8 years before the next one arrives. Measured across 7 long-term field sites, the average gap between births is 7.5 years. That is the longest birth interval of any mammal on Earth, at any size, including whales.
Work through the arithmetic, and a female orangutan produces 3, perhaps 4 offspring across an entire life that can run past 50 years. And that long gap is not idleness, it is schooling. The young orangutan has to learn which of several hundred plant species in its home range are edible, which will make it sick, when each of them fruits, and exactly where they stand. It has to learn which branches will carry an adult's weight. It has to learn to build a sleeping nest, and it practices that for years before it can do it properly. None of this is instinct. All of it comes from watching one specific adult over and over in one specific patch of forest. A system that's slow only functions because the adults almost never die. Survival among young females up to the age of first birth sits around 94%, which is higher than anything else recorded in a wild mammal. There is no buffer anywhere in the design. No large litters, no fast turnover, no spare generation waiting. The whole arrangement assumes that once an orangutan reaches adulthood, it gets to stay there.
Which brings us to the thing that is difficult to say plainly, so I am going to say it plainly. A significant number of orangutans in Borneo are being killed by people. Interview surveys across Kalimantan covering hundreds of villages produced a number that unsettled the people who collected it. At minimum, 750 orangutans killed in a single year, and depending on how the responses are scaled up, potentially a good deal more than that. Treat it as a floor, not a census. The reasons are not quite what most people picture. Some are killed raiding crops, which is what happens when a plantation sits where a forest used to be, and a hungry animal walks the only route it has ever known. Some are killed for meat, and the researcher who ran that survey singled out the finding that troubled him most. A large share of the killing was happening deep inside forested areas, nowhere near a farm, where orangutans were being hunted the way any other animal gets hunted. Now set that beside a 7.5-year birth interval. Remove one adult female, and you have not removed one animal. You have removed every descendant she would have produced across the following 30 years. Here is where this turns, and it turns in a direction almost nobody expects. The same body of research that surfaced the killing also found that orangutans are considerably tougher than anyone had assumed. They can hold on in a patchwork of forest, logged forest, and plantation edge. They cross ground you would not expect them to cross. They eat things you would not expect them to eat. One of the lead researchers compressed it into a single sentence, and it is worth sitting with. Orangutans can survive in a mosaic of forests, plantations, and logged forest, but only when they are not killed. That reframes the entire problem. If the only thing capable of saving this species were the restoration of untouched primary rainforest across the whole of Borneo, the situation would be close to hopeless, because that is not going to happen at the scale required. But the binding constraint turns out not to be only the trees. It is whether the animal in the tree gets to live. And that is a problem made of human decisions, which means it is a problem capable of changing quickly, in a way that a forest simply cannot. Tanjung Puting sits on the southern coast of Borneo. Peat swamp and rainforest, one of the largest protected orangutan populations left anywhere, and the place where a great deal of what we know about this species was first written down. Around 65% of that park's primary forest has been degraded, burned, logged illegally, mined for gold, with oil palm pressing against the boundary from outside. Protected on paper and under pressure in practice, which is a fair description of most of the range. The rehabilitation centers are the other half of the picture, and they exist because of the arithmetic we just walked through. When a mother is killed, her infant is often taken alive. Those infants arrive knowing nothing, because everything an orangutan knows it learned from its mother over 6 to 8 years. Keepers then spend the better part of a decade teaching a young orangutan what a wild mother would have taught it, which branches hold, what is safe to eat, how to build a nest before the light goes. It works, sometimes. But there is no version of it that is faster, cheaper, or kinder than simply not killing the mother. So when somebody asks why orangutans are endangered, palm oil is a true answer, and an incomplete one. The forest matters enormously. It just turned out not to be the whole equation. And the missing piece is not a landscape at all. It is a decision, repeated across thousands of separate places, about whether the animal in front of you gets to keep breathing. I want to hear what you make of that last part. Knowing that killing carries more weight than most of us were told, would you spend a conservation budget differently? Put it in the comments. I read them all. Every orangutan in this story had a mother who spent the better part of a decade teaching it how to stay alive. And she will only ever get to do that 3 or 4 times. Nothing about that is abundant. Look after the ones who are yours. From Lipinski Wildscape, where nature tells its story.